Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Anupma Biology Classes. In this video, we will focus on biological classification, and this video is taken from CBSE class 11th, chapter 2nd, part 1st. Now let's start the topic. At first, do you understand the meaning of classification? So, classification basically is the arrangement of things in taxonomic groups in accordance with the observed similarities. It helps in understanding the groups as a whole with simple ease. Now, here we will discuss with you the biological classification and how it has simplified things for us. So, the first thing is introduction of biological classification. So, biological classification is the scientific ordering of organisms like bacteria, protists, fungi, plants and animals in a hierarchical series of groups on the basis of their relationships, morphological, evolutionary and others. So, biological classification is the scientific procedure that involves the arrangement of the organism in a hierarchical series of groups and subgroups on the basis of their similarities and dissimilarities. Biological classification, historically, similarity was determined by examining the physical characteristics of an organism, but modern classification uses a variety of techniques including genetic analysis. Now, what is the need for biological classification? So, what would do you if you were asked to pick up a particular coin from a heap of several hundred coins belonging to many countries? You would probably first sort out the coins country-wise. By doing this, you would have many smaller heaps. Then, in each heap, you would find many sets of coins issued from time to time. The heap of each country would thus be subdivided into many smaller piles. In each pile, there would be coins of different denominations. These would arrange in order of their values. After this arrangement, it would become very easy for you to find out the coin of a given description. The same is required to be done with the animals and plants, the number of which is enormous. It is rather difficult to give the exact number of different kinds of animals and plants. About 1.2 million types of animals and about 0.5 million types of plants have already been described and named. Many new forms are discovered every year from the hitherto unexplored localities, and a large number lived in the past. The animals and plants vary greatly in their form, structure, and mode of life. To find out an organism of known characters from the vast number of organisms is simply impossible. They must be divided into groups and subgroups. So, what is the need for biological classification? The study of one or more, that means two organisms, is not sufficient to know the essential features of the groups. All kinds of organisms do not occur in one locality. Classification helps in knowing the relationship between the different groups of organisms. It helps in knowing the evolutionary relationship between organisms. So these are the need for the biological classification. Now, what are the advantages of biological classification? So classification allows us to study innumerable biological organisms of Earth in an organized way. Classification also helps us to understand evolutionary relationship between different groups. So the grouping of organisms according to a definite plan is very useful. And here are some advantages, like biological classification makes their study convenient. It facilitates identification of organisms. It reveals relationship among the various groups of organisms. It also enables the biologists to interpret the poorly visible structures of the fossil organism. It gives information about the plants and animals which do not occur in one's own locality. It reveals the evolutionary trends by showing gradually increasing complexity of structure in the various groups of organisms. So, and the last is, it is not possible for man to know about all the organisms, but the study of a few representatives from each group will enable him to have a broad idea of the life as a whole. So, these are the advantages of the biological classification. Now, let's see here what are the objectives of biological classification. So, biological classification has three main objectives, and these are to recognize and precisely describe the basic units of classification, that is, species, to devise an appropriate method of assigning the basic units into an ascending series of groups on the basis of their similarities and relationships, and the last is to indicate the phylogeny of the organism. Phylogeny means evolution. Now, so the purpose of classification is to break a subject into smaller, more manageable, more scientific parts. So, smaller subcategories help us make sense of the world, and the way in which these subcategories are created also help us make sense of the world. A classification is organized by its subcategories. Now, after this, what is the history of classification? So here we will see the history of classification. Classification of organism is almost as old as man himself. Humans, as the advanced species with power of reasoning and communication through language, classified organisms from different points of view at different times. Like our Vedic literature reveals 740 plants and 250 animals. Chand Yoga Upanishad has classified animals into viviparous, oviparous and minute animals. After this, Sushruta Samhita, post-Vedic Indian literature classified all living substance into immobile such as plants and mobile such as animals. Plants were further grouped as Vanaspati, Vaksha, Viruddha and Osadhi. Similarly, animals were grouped as Kulakara, Matsya, Janghala and Gushhashya. Parashara differentiated angiosperms into dicotyledons and monocotyledons. The former had which known as Jalika perna, like reticulate veined leaves, and the latter had parallel veined leaves. After this, Hippocrates and Aristotle, the Greek scholars arranged animals into major groups like insects, birds, fishes, and whales. Theophrastus categorized plants into four categories: trees, shrubs, undershrubs, and herbs on the basis of their habit, form, and texture. He named and described 480 plants in his book, and the name of the book is Historia Plantarum. Pliny the Elder introduced system of artificial classification and mentioned over 1000 economic plants with nearly 2000 items in his book. The name of the book is Historia Naturalis. So the name of book of Theophrastus is Historia Plantarum and the name of the book of Pliny the Elder is Historia Naturalis. John Ray in the late 17th century described more than 18,000 plants and animals in 3 volumes under the title Historia Generalis Plantarum. He coined the term species for an assemblage of morphologically similar organisms. He also attempted to distinguish genus and species. After this, last is Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus, a Swedish naturalist, developed the scientific system of naming of species, commonly called binomial system of nomenclature. Accordingly, species names has two parts. The first part represents genus to which the species belongs, and the second part represents the identity of the species to which the organism belongs. He also described 5,900 species of plants in his book Species Plantarum and 43,026 species of animals in Systema Nature by placing them in 6 categories: mammals, birds, amphibians, fishes, insects and worms. So, from the period of Aristotle to the period of Linnaeus, systematics employed limited traits for the classification of organisms. Thereafter came the phase of classical taxonomy, giving rise to natural system of classification, which followed by phylogenetic system of classification or cladistics. So this is all about the history of classification, what is biological classification, need for biological classification, advantage of biological classification, and objectives of biological classification. So next video we will see about the 2 kingdom system of classification and 5 kingdom system of classification. So if you understand this video, please like and share it and subscribe to my channel Anupma Biology Classes. If you have any questions, any queries or any suggestions, you can ask in the comment section below. Thank you for the watching.